No reason to have to call the meeting to order. Everyone's ready. So welcome. Welcome to the month of August, and I hope our rains will come soon. Hope and pray. We will, is there anyone attending YouTube online? Okay, not yet. Very good. So anyway, thank you for being here. We will begin our meeting with Cindy Orr, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today's meeting, if we are done by 9 o'clock, we have a Truth and Taxation budget hearing meeting at 9. That's a time certain. If we are done by then, we'll go ahead and it won't impact this meeting. If we're not done by then we'd go ahead and recess the meeting and re-enter the Truth and Taxation hearing meeting. Okay, the first item of business is the approval of the work session held on July 3rd, 2023, and minutes of the regular meeting and work sessions held on July 17th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're getting ready because we have a roll call vote a little later. So, okay, the next item of business is, our first item of business is the from our county engineer, Michael Bryce. Can you turn this down just a little bit? I'm getting some feedback. Thank you. Okay, and can we still hear you, Michael?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay, very good.
Members of the board. Good
Morning.
morning. Okay, the first item is an approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Graham County and the state of Arizona for a grant that has been given to us by the legislature to construct an all-weather crossing at Tally Wash. And so we need approval to enter into that agreement.
Thank you. Any discussion?
No, other than it'll be a great improvement for that road, safety and traffic improvement. So we have no comments. I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the state of Arizona and Graham County for funding of an all-weather crossing on Safford Bryce Road at Tally Wash.
I'll second it.
Okay, and I'll preface my vote with just a comment, and that is that it was an appropriation in our House and Senate delegation. Senator Gowan, Representative Gail Griffin, Representative Lupe Diaz, they had money that they could spend in the district, and they chose, in addition to other projects, they chose to fund this and the next item, provide funding for that to and so that we could take care of these safety and geometrical intersection problems. And so they don't get enough credit for stepping up and helping us, but it's significant. And I'll go ahead then and make this a unanimous vote. Next item.
Okay, the next item is another intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona for the improvement of the Norton Road, Ray Lane intersection. That intersection has been problematic for the acid trucks and other large vehicles and the citizens who come to that intersection and have conflicts at times. And so, in addition to our legislators, Chairman David has on the RTAC committee, which promoted this to the legislatures through SEGO, and so we appreciate his work on that too.
Thank you very much. I didn't send you a Christmas card, but I will this year. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion, comments
No,
on
just
this?
to piggyback off that, another great safety improvement. It comes out of the same pot of money, out of appropriations, the same representatives work for us. But Paul, we all are very grateful for your presence on that RTAC committee. It has been a godsend to the county to have you there to watch out for us and speak for us. You've done great work. I appreciate you very much on that.
Thank you. You're very kind. Okay.
With that being said, I will make a motion to approve an intergovernment agreement between the state of Arizona and Graham County for the funding of improvement of the Ray Lane and Norton Road intersection.
I'll second that.
I'll make that unanimous. Thank you, our Mr. County Engineer. Next, we have this is always a positive when we get people donating right-of-way for our future growth and for existing access. So
Okay,
you've got the next item.
So the next item is a request for the Board of Supervisors to accept a right-of-way donation from Matthew and Anna McGoffin. This is out on Klondike, actually the Bonita Klondike Road. During the property purchase there, they were willing to donate this right-of-way to the county, which we appreciate, and that would ask the Board of Supervisors to accept that right-of-way donation.
Thank you. What's not to like about that? Any discussion or?
No, anytime we can get a right-of-way, it's golden, so it's our advantage to get these right-of-ways in place. It's great.
I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the right-of-way donation from Matthew and Anna McGoffin of a portion of Klondike Road to Graham County located in Section 21, Township 07 South, Range 20 East, Record of Survey, Graham County Recorder, number 2023-03349.
I'll second it.
And I'll make that unanimous. Your last item.
Thank you. Last item is a request to Board of Supervisors to approve a new agreement between Graham County and ITRC, which is they've been working on the Gila Valley water grant that we have with NRCS. Their agreement came to an end, and there are still some technical issues that we need to consult with them on, and the primary contractor is continuing to work on it, and so we have two different consultants working on this project, and so we've extended the agreement with the Tetra Tech, and now we're wanting to extend this agreement so that they can continue that work and complete it.
Thank you. This is a relatively small, well, it all depends on what you consider small, but from a county government perspective, a relatively small dollar addendum or agreement. Was it $10,000? Is that right? Up
Yes.
to $10,000.
Right.
So yeah,
So,
they've got the time. We're just gleaning the rest of the information and getting some spot questions answered, from what I understand.
That's correct. They've submitted a report which they completed all that they could with the information that they had. Then when they get the balance of the information, and they will be working with the consultant who's putting together the final report to fill in the gaps that are between the two, trying to coordinate those issues.
It sounds kind of cryptic, the discussion, but what it is that we, ever since the canals were developed, stormwater has gone into the canals, along with all the dirt and the rocks and the debris, and has created a hardship on the irrigation districts, because they're the ones who clean them. And so this is just basically a study to try to find ways to minimize the overflow into the canals and to keep them happy, keep them from having to spend an inordinate amount of money cleaning our sediment, and at the same time finding better ways to get drainage down to the river. So,
Yeah, probably the main issue is that those canals overflow and then affect citizens downstream, both farmland and the towns and cities. And this is an effort to kind of work between the irrigation district and our communities to mitigate some of those flooding issues so that they're, and we're hoping in the meantime, or in conjunction with that, to improve the operation of the canals also.
yeah, it's long overdue, and appreciate your interest and your expertise, and then Dustin for his leadership in moving forward on this. Any other discussion?
It's just been a long overdue project. It's been a problem for as long as I can remember. Back in my farming days, these canals has handled the brunt of the load of the drainage and the flooding, and the waterways and tributaries have all changed with all the building going on. It's been quite a liability to the canals because they're responsible for them canals, and when they break, then the district gets sued for the water going on public property. So hopefully we can get through this and get some answers. It's not going to be an easy fix. Any way we look at it, there's just a tremendous amount of engineering and problems that go into this, but we have some ideas, and I think it's great that we're this far along. So hopefully it'll move forward and we can fix this problem for not only canals, but our citizens and property owners.
Very good, thank you. And another of our farmers who are on the board. Any comments?
I'm a hobby farmer, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between Graham County and ITRC to continue technical support for the NRCS and GVID project on time and material basis.
I'll second it.
Thank you, supervisors, and I'll make that unanimous. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Michael.
thank you.
Next, we have Brian Douglas from our County Health Department. He's the director. He has 2 items.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's requested the board approve hiring Claire Santos as a consultant for the Food Access Nutrition Program and to support the Gila Valley Food Coalition. And funds for Ms. Santos will come from the Greenlee United Way grant.
Very good. I note that it's up to $30,000 depending on how much support is needed and her efforts, and it's a 1-year extension of a contract. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
No discussion.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
Make a motion to approve the agreement with Clara Santos as consultant for Food Access Nutrition Program and to support the Gila Valley Food Coalition.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll make that unanimous. Next item.
Secondly, it's requested the board approve the Title V Maternal and Child Health Healthy Arizona Families, IGA. It's our family planning program, and their amendment number 3. And within the amendment, there's just some updated definitions and some verbiage that doesn't affect the original 5-year IGA that was previously approved.
Thank you. Yeah, I read through that, and there's half a dozen minor changes, minor additions.
Correct.
So it's almost it is a formality. I'm in favor. Any other discussion?
No, I'll make a move to approve the Title V Maternal and Child Healthy Arizona Families Family Planning IGA Amendment number 3.
I'll second it.
And I'll make that unanimous. Thank you very much, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good week.
I shouldn't say V.
Next, we have from our probation department and courts, we have Josh Halverson, our director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So a couple of weeks, one of our one of our contracted defense attorneys, Mr. Staniford, informed the court that for personal reasons he needed to remove himself from this contract year. And certainly, it was very appropriate that he did so and made sense. So in order to be able to provide the indigent defense representation that we need to, we looked for another attorney who could fill essentially the remaining portion, the remaining 11 months of the same contract. So we were able to make an agreement with attorney Raymond Geyser. He is out of Globe, Arizona. We've worked with attorney Geyser for several years, helping with conflict cases and things like that. And he has agreed to essentially assume the contract for the remaining part of the year. Doesn't change terms or amounts or anything like that. So this is actually a request, please, for a ratification so that the contract could be retroactively effective August 1st.
Very good. I noted that Mr. Geyser, or Attorney Geyser, resides in Globe, so he's fairly close, and that'll be a good arrangement. And this was approved by Superior Court Judge Mike Peterson?
Yes, correct.
Okay, recommended. Any discussion?
No,
Comments?
make a motion to approve to ratify adult indigent defense agreement with attorney Raymond Geyser, PLC, effective August 1st, 2023.
I'll second it.
And I'll make that unanimous, and please invite Attorney Geyser. He's welcome to come anytime and introduce himself to members or the board.
We'll do so. Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Josh. Next, we have an item regarding our internet technology or IT, and so we're going to have, in lieu of McCoy Hawkins, we'll have our county manager will present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The request is to approve an unbudgeted software support for HyperFlex, which is the hardware and memory for all our county virtual servers. There's definitely some history to this, but HyperFlex is some hardware that we bought in 2020. It's a key piece of our IT infrastructure. With that purchase, we have, like any hardware, an annual fee for the software and license to keep that asset moving and functioning and whatnot. So the cost of this has not increased, as it may look like that on the agenda. The cost has stayed the same. What's changed is how the provider HyperFlex has chosen to charge us for this. They've split it up and divided it into two different pieces. And the second piece we didn't budget for this year is about $35,000. There's a lot that has happened in the accounting world, and Julie, our CFO, could certainly speak more intelligently to this than I can. But as far as how we track software and licenses and how the state of Arizona looks at those and classifies them is more complicated than we need to discuss. But the providers also have ways that they consider that. So trying to marry up what our auditors require us to call it, whether it's software or a license or an agreement or something else, is different than what these providers are calling it. So that's basically what we're looking at, and through trying to figure that out, rather than budgeting $64,000, we budgeted less than that. So we're coming to be able to basically pay the invoice that HyperFlex is sending us, and with that's what we're asking today, Mr. Chairman. I hope that is clear. If not, we do have some. We do have our IT director that can get technical if you want, but it's basically just how what they're calling software and licenses, what we're calling it, and how we budget for it. But the price is the same as previous years. We just need to capture it in our budget and pay for it to continue with this product that we're very happy with.
Thank you. In our agenda packets, there's quite a bit of information, pages and pages and pages. And so we've reviewed that, and it's fairly clear. No one likes it's kind of like the printer ink. you buy the printer and then you gotta pay whatever they're charging you for the ink. And this is kind of like printer ink, and you just pay it and hope that they don't raise the price too much the next time they have an opportunity. So the only item in there is that they considered it taxable, and so I've had our chief financial officer, she'll take a look at that to see if we can find a way, depending on the definition of not paying the $2,000 or so in sales tax, and so, but otherwise the expense is something we need and something that we need to pay for. So is there any other discussion?
No, just something I have to do, so I will make a motion to approve of the unbudgeted software support for HyperFlex.
I'll second that.
And I'll make that unanimous. So, thank you. Next we have Cindy Orr, and she has 2 items of business. Her office has been doing some work, and there's an opportunity to save the county a little money and clean some things up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Our first item is we're asking for approval on certificates of clearance for some personal property that the assessor's office has verified is no longer in existence, and we would like to clear those off our tax rolls.
These are like trailers that have burned, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? I did have a question, a follow-up. When the trailers burn, because it was listed there, do we, as we issue the clearance, certificate of clearance, is that contingent on let's say the trailer axles and the frame being gone, other than just the structure? Because what I'd like to do is to make sure that we don't end up inheriting an eyesore and giving them an advantage or giving them clearance and then having that still on the property. Do you know is that possible to do?
I do not know. I can look into that and let you know.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to hang things up today, but just the process improvement. I just think it would be good. The only leverage that we have left before we do this is to make sure that we don't inherit an eyesore that really needs to go to be scrapped. So, any other discussion? And this is what, half a dozen or so parcels?
Yes, there's 5.
5, okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion of approval of certificates of clearance for personal property bills eligible for abatement per ARS 42-1835-18351.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll make that unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second item is approval. We're requesting approval for the offer of a purchase of one of our over-the-counter tax deeds. That will get back on the tax rolls after your approval.
And this is in Thunderbird Valley, I recall
Yes.
reading. Okay. Well, that's good. Any discussion?
None. Make a motion to approve of offer for purchase of an over-the-counter tax deed sale parcel.
I'll second it.
I'll make that unanimous. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
very much. That was easier than you thought it would be, right? Okay, next we have our Chief Financial Officer, Julie Rodriguez, who's done a terrific amount of work. And today we're going to have our truth and taxation hearing, and we've approved the budget, but she's got a ratification of some budget adjustments.
Good morning. This is actually for last year's budget. There's a new GASB that went into effect, and our audit assistant partner from Walker & Armstrong, Curtis Bright, came down in mid-July, and we went through the entire 22-23 fiscal year. And there's the GASB is going to bring intangible assets onto our books, which other counties have had them before, but this is our first foray into intangible assets. And so we found 13 capital assets that are considered unbudgeted because they were not considered as capital. So all of the costs were approved. This is not adding any extra cost to last year. It's just reclassifying from expense to capital for those 12 items. And then just an additional amount for the Klondike Cottonwood Wash Culvert. The contractor was very, very busy. And so all of the billings that came in June, we were expecting them in July for work in July, but he actually completed that work in June. And so that increased unbudgeted capital, but just between years, just moving between years. So my request is ratification of the budget adjustments for the final 22-23 capital items.
Very good. I've got the list in front of me, and it's just a matter of shuffling things around and putting them in different little cabinets. So, okay, any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to ratification of budget adjustments for final FY 22-23 capital items.
I'll second it.
I'll make that unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we have our county manager will guide us through the next two items. One is the approval of an intergovernmental agreement, and this is an extension of services we already provide, but an approval of a one-year IGA with the Fort Thomas School District for School Resource Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, this is an extension or a renewal. I believe this is the fourth year we've had this intergovernmental agreement with Fort Thomas School District for a school resource officer. We use one of our deputies to fill this role. This has been a very positive agreement for Graham County and Fort Thomas schools. It's been successful. We have received positive feedback each year from Fort Thomas schools that they're happy with our arrangement, and maybe the biggest positive for us, and I think the sheriff's office would agree, is having that deputy on the far west side of town, where part of this agreement, she's able, if there is an emergency off of school property, she is able to respond to the situation, and that's proven to help our response times on that side of town. And they have reported that she is very helpful with their crime situations, with their trainings, and it's just very helpful. The Fort Thomas receives a grant of $75,000 from the state each year for this, and they basically pass that through to the county. That doesn't cover 100% of the officer's costs, which is all of the costs for that employee salary, EREs, which is your employee-related expenses, but it's very close. And she's on campus 10 months out of the year. The other 2 months, she's basically on the road for us, acting as a deputy. So this has been a very positive contract, and with that, we recommend approving and renewing this IGA with Fort Thomas School District for an additional year.
Thanks. Any comments, concerns, questions?
I just think it's great that we have this down there. It supplies that region with an officer to respond a lot more quick, and I think the citizens of Fort Thomas really benefit from this as well, and I thank the Sheriff's Department for that. And with that being said, if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion for the one-year IGA agreement with Fort Thomas Unified School District to provide school resource officer to service our junior high and elementary school.
I'll second it.
Thank you, supervisors. I'll just preface my vote with saying a couple things that I like. In the last couple of years, initially the county underwrote quite a bit of that school resource officer cost. In the last couple of years, Fort Thomas is now providing $75,000, which takes care of almost all the expense, which is significant for us. And the other thing I wanted to commend the officer is Officer Lacey. Is that right, Rose Lacey? Is that her continuity, her being there for the last 3 or 4 years or even longer, she's able to develop relationships with the younger kids because she goes to the elementary, junior high, as well as the high school, and develops those positive relationships with law enforcement. And if she wasn't there year after year, they would be starting over. And so she's got a lot of trust. She visits with families. She does an excellent job, so if you would commend her and tell her how much the board appreciates that. And with that, I'll go ahead and make the vote unanimous, and that motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next item, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is a item that you're familiar with. Just a little history on property taxes. Any property owner has the opportunity to challenge their assessed value of their property. And from time to time, we do receive these appeals and challenges, which in the end, as they push forward, turn into tax lawsuits. And this particular one is on property owned by Nature Suite. In correlation with our county attorney, we've hired a group called Cardin Livesay to handle the legal aspect of this tax lawsuit. And part of the process as we fight this tax lawsuit and as they challenge the assessed value, and our job is to prove that the assessed value is appropriate, which we believe. So part of this is to hire an appraiser to look at that property and properly appraise it, professionally appraise it as we go throughout this process. So this item here today is to approve an engagement agreement and an addendum. So there's two documents here that we're asking for approval for with Ag Value LLC for appraisal services. And this is not a typical appraisal. It's several hundred acres of greenhouse property that's very specialized. So this Ag Value LLC, that's exactly what they specialize in. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking for approval to enter into this engagement agreement and approve the addendum number 1 to the agreement for appraisal services.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just think it's very vital that we approve this we need a accurate appraisal of this property to let us go forward and to do this right. So I would make a motion to approve, to enter into an engagement agreement and approve addendum number 1 to the agreement with Ag Value LLC for appraisal services.
I second it.
I'll make that unanimous, and wish us well. It'd be nice to win one of those hearings every once in a while. Next, we have an opportunity for just the members of the board as well as the county manager to present a brief summary of activities. It's been 3 weeks since our last meeting. I'll go ahead and start with Vice Chairman Howard for his if you'd like to give us a report
Sure,
on your activities.
I'll be real brief. I traveled on the 20th to Sholo to a transportation meeting up there, and I've been attending these on a regular basis. It's been very helpful to gather information on our transportation system and seeing the money that's available out there that we can go after to help our roads. And I bring it back to the board and Dustin, and I believe it's been a worthy cause and helpful. And on the 27th, I attended the United Way Grant Advisory Committee, and I just want to thank United Way. It's amazing what they do for our community and all the contributors and the monies that they put out for the programs that they do. And it's pretty simple system, and very rarely is anything denied. In the millions and millions of dollars that they give back to this community is just it blows your mind. Then on August 1st, I go to my regular Gila Valley Irrigation District meeting and listen to their water problems and their solutions. Sometimes it's comical to listen to them, but it's quite an interesting monthly meeting that I participate in there and give them our advice and or my knowledge of what I know that can help them. Also on the same day, I attended the Substance Abuse Coalition meeting, which I have to pat them on the back. They have grown tremendously, and the attentions the courts has given them and the cooperation and the camaraderie and the joint efforts has really made a difference in this community on our substance abuse and the programs that we're offering. And just I think I announced last meeting, but I'll announce it again this meeting. We're moving forward with a woman's House of Hope. We've got great strides going forward and finding fundings on this, and it wouldn't be too far-fetched to see that we will be in a construction stage of that the early part of next year. I'm hoping that we can get there. May not be as big as the male facility, but it's going to be big, and I'm excited to be working on that. Then on August 3rd, I had the opportunity to attend a meeting at EA College with Senator Sinema and Representative Siscomani. I had the opportunity to lead him in there, but I was almost late because my truck tire fell off, and the rescue came to me. Dustin was my rescuer, picked me up and got me to the college on time. So
Not your tire, your wheel, everything.
my wheel fell off, everything. My truck was sitting in the road, and I had 10 minutes to be to college, so suit, sweating, wondering how I was gonna go do this, but we made it. Anyway, that's the end of my report.
Thanks. Go ahead and our county manager, and would you introduce Jennifer as part of your
Sure,
report?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with that. Jennifer St. John is with us today. She is our deputy CFO, so she'll be working with Julie Rodriguez, and we've been telling Julie for 15 years that help is on the way, or at least 10 years, and it arrived in the form of Jennifer last week. She is a CPA. She comes with us with lots of experience, auditing experience. She was a county manager over in Santa Cruz County. So she comes with a lot of experience and expertise, and we're very happy and excited to have her. Welcome, Jennifer.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks.
Just a brief update on some of our projects. The project at the fairgrounds that we've all been watching with the playground, the rubber tiles at the playground are complete, so that project is done, and we're happy to see it complete. Over at the respite center, they continue to move along at a good pace. They're down to some exterior finishes and landscaping work and just a few things inside as well. And I know they're working on a grand opening date, and they may have already pushed that out.
September 12th.
September 12th.
It's a 4 to 6 open house, September 12th.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that's great to see. The contractor has done a very good job, and if you saw the facility from day one to even what it looks like now, not quite finished, it's quite the makeover. So we're excited to see that as it gets to the finish line. We're very close to finishing our budget talks. Of course, today is our final budget hearing with our tax rates and adopting the final budget. And then just as a reminder, the last piece of that will be on August 21st. We'll set all the tax rates for all taxing authorities within Graham County as we're required to do. We continue to start projects as we finish them at the fairgrounds. We've bid out and awarded the project to re-roof the 4 of our ramadas and the bathroom, the one between the 2 ponds on the north end of the fairgrounds. So that should begin shortly. We also, I just wanted to report, I thought this was interesting. Our ratings on our jail bonds, when we built the jail back in 2016, it was all we could do to show that we were financially sound enough to actually be able to fund those jail bonds, and we had to put a lot of different pieces in place, securities that maybe weren't all that common. But since then, it has been very successful. The bonds have been consistently funded and paid, and recently we had an S&P Global Ratings analysis on the jail bonds, and they upgraded them from just an A or from an A- to an A. And in that long report, reported the financial stability, how much it has increased over the last couple of years. So that's great to see that we have successfully moved forward on that, and we still have almost 20 years to pay on those bonds, but they're moving forward, and at a much better pace than we ever anticipated.
Thank you for your report. You've been here, what, 3 weeks now on the job?
Yeah.
Would you like to report on experiences or opportunities you've had?
So I had the opportunity to go to the meeting with Senator Sinema and Siscomanni, and just exciting to hear that they know our needs and our wants and that they're working on stuff for us. I think it was one Siscomanni got, was it $2 million for Pima Fire Department?
Yeah.
So they care about us, and it was just, it was a good meeting. Enjoyed it, learned a lot.
Thank you, and I've been impressed with your abilities and efforts. So, not that I doubted any of them, but you've exceeded expectations. And anything else? Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Very welcome to the board. I'll would also mention the Representative Siscomanni, Congressman Siscomanni. He also allocated $1.2 million for Gila Valley, or the linear park, so that will move us along in getting that designed and turning that into a reality. Okay, quickly, over the last 3 weeks, we ended up with we had budget meetings in preparation for the budget. I attended on the 18th of July, an ADOT electric vehicle charging plan webinar, trying to get them to include the US 70 corridor beyond Globe for electric vehicle charging stations. Also, we had a broadband where they talked to Arizona Commerce Authority, talked about funding for broadband in our area and what it would take to qualify. Went to a local community to end homelessness meeting. I traveled on the 21st early morning meeting and Coalition of Arizona and New Mexico Counties board meeting at the Cattle Growers Association, discussed some environmental issues and concerns about our area and nationally. The 24th, traveled to Phoenix for the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council board meeting, which was a kind of to plan our annual meeting coming up this fall, and also to review and try to help push the Proposition 400 for Maricopa Association of Governments to get a little more political will to get them to pass that, so that Maricopa County wouldn't be competing with Graham and all the other rural counties for funding. That passed, but not because of us, but we helped a little bit. Then attended an executive board selection panel. Our CEGO director, Randy Heiss from Bisbee, is retiring, and so we are trying to replace him. Then there was a broadband feasibility study meeting held locally, and then the senior citizens had a fundraiser on the 28th, which sold out. They weren't able to keep up. They said they needed another kitchen. They were frying the taco shells, and I just think they needed to just warm up the taco shells. That was their, but you know, they didn't ask for my opinion, and so I'll just share it in this meeting, but I won't hurt their feelings. The Substance Abuse Coalition attended that remotely, while Vice Chairman Howard was there in person. At Graham Veterans Services, we were talking about a resource fair for the veterans on the 10th, the day before November 11th, Veterans Day. There was a Desert Cat Rescue Board meeting, and our county attorney, Scott Bennett, was there to address concerns and share his willingness to prosecute animal cruelty, his investment of time, along with attendance by our county manager and most of our law enforcement leaders here in the valley, was very much appreciated. And also, of course, our sheriff was there. And we made some good progress, at least in education and letting people know the resources what Desert Cat can and can't do as far as helping with the cats abandoned and also placing for rehousing cats. Department of Liquor License and Control meeting, a hearing on the 3rd, followed by, I picked up the tail end of the Senator Sinema, Congressman Siscomani meeting, and then there's a Gila Watershed Plan meeting later that day, a webinar, and that's my report. We still have time. What I'd like to do is, with the board's permission, I don't know if I need to actually bring it to a vote, but we have public hearings for a zone map change and a final plat. And if we don't get to both of those, I'd like to take this out of order and have the final plat, the public hearing for that, thinking that we can finish that before our 9 o'clock hearing on our budget and the truth and taxation hearing. And so with your permission,
Absolutely.
hearing no opposition, then we'll go ahead and do that. We'll invite Steve McGoy up, and so we'll discuss it that way. The people who are here mostly for that hearing, most of our guests, then we can go ahead and address that and see if we can take care of that, if 10 minutes will be enough. Thanks, Steve.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Manager Welker. It's a little bit of switch up I wasn't expecting. I thought we'd do the other one first, but that's fine. We're here for a public hearing on a final plat proposal, plat 22-02 and 3. I don't know how that ended up being 2 plats, but it did. It's parcel 106-28-085. It's almost 80 acres out off of Stockton and Artesia area. Sonoran Skies LLC is a subdivision put together by a group of investors, I'll call it, and they wish to have their own private little neighborhood out there, for which I think that's a perfect place for. I will let Alfred come up and present his specifics, but while he's coming, the commission unanimously approved this and gave it a favorable recommendation to you guys, and they were pretty impressed with it. They did have some questions, but it was mainly because some of our new commissioners hadn't been here at the previous presentation, so nothing really has changed other than them figuring out ways to satisfy all of our requirements. And I'll let Alfred take over.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I placed the the final plat maps up here for you to see it. It basically is the final plat with a couple of stipulations. During the grading plan report and the drainage report, there were some stipulations that we had to have a retention pond on the northwest corner of the property as a result of that study, which we are making provisions for. The other one was that, the main one was that no structures would be constructed that would cause the flow of water not to flow naturally on that land. And so those are really the 2 main stipulations. Any questions on the final plat?
Alfred, what is your last name?
Katool, K-A-T-O-O-L.
Okay, Mr. Katool, it's great to see this development. It's again very low density. Typically subdivisions have requirements, and so there were 3 exceptions. One was the not requiring a paved road was one of the exceptions that was requested, and then there were 2 other minor exceptions. one of the problems that we have coming in the future is air quality standards. And of course, we have hundreds of miles of unpaved roads, and adding another half a mile is not going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back. But the precedent of having a subdivision with an unpaved road is I think it sends a message, and I just wanted to clarify before voting to approve this, clarify that this is very low density. It's 24 parcels, 80 acres, so about 3.6 acres
Yes.
per parcel, and so it would be almost cost prohibitive to actually pave all the roads. But the requirement is that it be an AB surface, and I wanted to bring up for discussion that there's a difference between an AB road, which is a dirt road that has AB sprinkled on it, and a specified road that has drainage. It's surveyed drainage, and it's graded, and AB courses put down in the structural section, and then it's ready for pavement. And so my interpretation of an unpaved road would be, and using MAG spec, which we use MAG specs, section 310 of MAG, that this actually be, that the roads be, you have the grade and drain work done, and the AB surface put on and rolled and ready for pavement, and then that would be acceptable to me, and I think that would serve your residents very well, and especially since this is going to be phased in, you're not going to develop this all at once. Then I don't think that asking for, since you've agreed to an AB road, to actually have a spec and a standard so that you can meet that, and so that we don't have rivulets of drainage across the road that turn into little gullies that turn into problems as far as maintenance. So that was my thought, but otherwise, other than that, I really like the subdivision. I love the synergy with the monastery, and the fact that most of your residents will probably have some kind of an affinity for the monastery and the work that's being done there. So
Yes.
okay. Any other questions or concerns?
No, from reading everything, you've had all your studies done, your drainage studies. That's very important to me on these types of things, and looks like that's been completed and approved. And the commission seemed to approve of everything that you had presented to them. I like the idea of the community being such a big lots and just privatized. Basically, it's going to be your guys' community, and the location is absolutely perfect. So I think it'll be a great improvement. I like Paul's idea of having the roads into a condition to be safe for the future of your occupants. So I like that idea. But no, I think it's a great improvement.
Yeah. If I could make one comment.
Sure.
We came to the AB roads based on experience in that area with a monastery.
Okay.
Having to create the roads and maintain them. So we thought that would be the best way. Since we are going to maintain the roads, that would be the easiest and best way to begin with. And also, there's going to be, as far as the plan goes, it's going to be put in layers so that it's compacted. So
Okay.
that
Sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
As the work is being done, and Mr. Bryce, do you have the standard drawing that you can get from MAG for the description of section 310 that we can utilize? And I guess yield to Steve.
I was just gonna suggest that Alfred, he has some bids on this project, and I was just gonna suggest that he outline what he asked for in those bids so that you know what he's proposing. I mean, as far as, I don't even know who all you got bids from, but I know you had to ask him for something specific, so.
Yes. So we actually have 2 bids from the Safford area and 1 from the Phoenix area as a backup because of availability. And I'm going to give you the general plan, which was we were advised to put down 2-inch layers of AB at a time, water it, compact it, and then next put on the second layer of AB, do the same, let it harden, find out if there's any soft spots that need to be reinforced. A big part of that, though, is we are going to install probably 7 or more culverts, which will allow the roads to maintain their integrity. And then if they have to be repaired, we can do that.
It sounds like we're on the same page. It's just a matter of having a standard. Because when you describe that to your bidders,
Okay.
in your bid document, you had to have something that you utilized as a method.
Right. So let me confer with Sister Anastasia on that.
Okay.
We have 1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So Bowman did the work for the grading and for the drainage, and so they are following the specs. The specs are baked into the plan, correct, Michael? Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm satisfied.
Okay.
And I just didn't see that I didn't have in my packet the full set of plans. I just had a couple initial.
Okay.
And I can get them from our engineer. So it sounds like we're in harmony.
Okay.
Your other 2 exceptions, can you cover those? We're about out of time, but can you cover
I'll do
those
this
real
quickly. I'll do this quickly.
Okay.
One of them was to do a traffic flow study, and basically right now there's 32 houses between Goose Tree and Antelope, and on a good day you may see another car pass by while you're on Stockton Road. And there's another little subdivision, which they mainly use 191. So adding 22, 24 houses to that area on top of maybe 5 cars an hour. That was the first one. And then the last one was the method of guarantee. And so I'm gonna give you a quick handout. We came up with a model that the city of Phoenix uses, and also the Arizona Department of Real Estate, whereby a certificate of occupancy is used. And so basically what we're stating is that what is written in the first part of that, which is where the developer states it, that no permits will be granted until all of the improvements are made. So the investors are highly motivated to complete the improvements so that the lots can be sold and so that the buyers can get building permits for their property. And so that's really the only way we're going to be able to get our return on our investment and complete the community.
Very good.
And, yeah, go ahead.
I think you've sold the idea well.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to ask Steve McGoy if he would share his recommendation. We've heard what the Planning and Zoning Commission, if you have any reservations or concerns, and then our county manager, and then we'll deliberate.
Okay.
If you think that you are okay, that I've given you enough time.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of what you've heard us go over right now is stuff that we have back and forth worked out,
Okay.
hoping you would accept it. I don't think we haven't left the neighborhood or you guys or anybody in a position where there's anything not gonna get taken care of. They're highly motivated to get this finished and go. And we have agreed that they originally pulled 4 permits on the 80-acre parcel. And they don't want any more permits until they build the roads, and they've got bids, and they're ready for somebody to get out there and get it finished. So we're happy with it. Okay. I think it's because it's gonna be basically a gated community. We're never gonna have to deal with the fallout of a road failure, but they do have them engineered and they're in good shape, so.
Very good. Thank you for your work on that. County Manager, you have a recommendation?
Yeah, we recommend approval. Mr. Chairman, this has been vetted for several hours through planning and zoning and engineering, and we think they've come to a good conclusion and a good presentation, and we're happy with what we see. And I just think, especially with the insertion of an HOA and CCNRs and what appears to be a competent plan going forward to maintain those roads for those residents, I think we have a good plan in place.
Thank you very much. Any comments, deliberation?
I think it's well thought out.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the final plat, plat 22-02 and plat 22-03, APN 106-28-085, 79.55 acres. Subdivision of petition exception. Subdivision is located east of Stockton Road and west of Sky Blue Road and north of Artesian Road, with the south interest being an extension of Antelope Lane.
I'll second it.
Thank you, and I'll make that unanimous. Congratulations, and we look forward to visiting sometime and watching you grow. Okay, we're going to go ahead and recess from our board meeting, and then we're going to enter into a special meeting, a public hearing for truth and taxation. So we're going to two-minute recess, and then we'll start our truth and taxation hearing. Okay. Absolutely. Hi, thank you so much for coming. Yes. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We had this one, when they say time certain, we had to do that at 9, but we'll do that at this, I think this will be 15, 20 minutes, and then we're gonna do that one. Of course.
Sure.
No, yeah, this is a public hearing, so you're welcome to wait. What was your name again? Cheryl. Cheryl, thank you. Oh, Chris Cheryl, Paul David, Chris. Thank you. Okay. I'll play the H card. Yes, yeah, Dustin already gave me that. Thank you so much.
We missed that one. Dustin. I know it was real close.
Okay. I'm on. Thank you very much for your attendance today at this public hearing to review the tax rates for both Graham County and the Graham County Flood Control District. We will begin this presentation, and I appreciate Mr. Gott for his interest in as a taxpayer and his interest in the process. And he has he'll have an opportunity to, if he chooses to speak and represent his interests. And so we'll go ahead and begin this with our county manager giving us an overview.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we need to dim any of the lights, or was that is that just a dark slide? Okay, it's just a dark slide.
Okay.
We're good. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I went into a lot of depth on the preliminary budget, and so I don't intend to do that again unless the board has some questions for that, and I certainly can. But as you said, I just want to give a general overview here. We like to share this slide. This is how we spend our money, and that's probably the biggest question we get. Where do taxpayers' money go, and what do we spend them on? So here's just a graph to show where our general fund money goes between the sheriff's office and the courts. So basically, your law and order makes up almost half of our budget, and that's not unique to Graham County. That's how counties are built. We're built to provide safety to the employees or to the residents of the county, and provide the court systems and the law enforcement to do that. We're, of course, in charge of indigent health. So a lot of times, if you wonder, hey, who pays for that? Usually it's the county.
Including people in the nursing home.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's significant. That's over $1 million a year.
Yes, whether it's indigent burial or Medicare, Medicaid access, the county takes on a big share of that. And then the rest of the $10 million is our 12 other departments, which is anything from planning and zoning to engineering to animal control, the assessor's office, treasurer's office, recorder's office, and so forth. So those are all statutorily required departments that we run. Each department is unique in almost its business in itself. But our general fund actual expenses, so these are actuals from fiscal year 2023, was around 23 million. The rest of these are special revenue sources, your highway and engineering, jail district, probation, health department. Those are the main ones. Of course, there's several more, but those are grouped largely of where our actual expenses go. So I just wanted to include that as we're considering this budget to anyone in the public and maybe of our employees wanting to understand a little better where that money goes. Some of the challenges that we faced this year as we put this budget together, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, the indigent costs. So access enrollment is up. Fortunately for us, that will not result in more funds from the county this year. The state's going to keep us whole for another year, but that could change on any given year. Our all-techs, that's your long-term health care, so that is your Medicare and Medicaid. Those premiums have increased fairly significantly this year, and we see those increasing in the near future. We've made some progress in replacing some of our aging vehicles, but we continue to needing to make some ground on that. So that's what we're trying to address with this budget. Aging buildings and years of deferred maintenance is what we're up against. Again, the last couple years, we've been tackling these issues, but we have much more ground to cover. I don't need to speak much to inflation. Everyone understands that. It's hitting us in our home pocketbooks, and at the county level, it's certainly affecting us as well. That's from fuel, vehicles, equipment, supplies, parts, software, utilities, et cetera. Everything has increase in costs. And then making sure our employees are receiving competitive wages. And over the last 2 years, we've certainly addressed that. That's been a focus of our conversations, and I believe we're making good ground. I had a really good meeting with Human Resources last week, and the number of applications that we're receiving for our open positions has really increased, especially in our specialized positions. One example is a nursing position. In years past, we've waited months to get an application, and as soon as we opened that up, within 2 weeks, we had 8 applications, which is a big increase for us, a big help. So we are, I think, making some good progress there with our employees' wages, and this budget also addresses a market increase to help in that regard. And of course, health insurance premiums across the entire nation have increased, and we continue to pay for those and provide that as a very good benefit for our employees. This budget represents the county absorbing that increase 100% and not passing it down to the employees. So we're proud that we're able to put a budget together to do that. Part of the discussions today are of course considering our property tax. Here is a chart from back to 2013, tracking in blue the assessed value of the properties in Graham County. I'm sorry, in green the assessed values, and in blue the tax rate. So as you're well aware, in 2018 we bumped our tax rate pretty high up to $2.99, and that's per thousand. So if you're on a $1,000 valuation, the county's tax is $2.99. And we did that because the county was frankly in dire straits. We were very close to finishing the year in the red, and there's not a lot of options to raise funds, so we made that increase. But you can see since that time, over the last 5 years, we've been able to steadily decrease that tax rate. Last fiscal year, our tax rate was $2.24, and this budget represents a minor decrease, but again, another decrease in our tax rate down to $2.22. And the reason we've been able to lower those tax rates is, one, because we continue to operate a very conservative government. We are very conservative in our approach to adding employees, to increasing budgets, and our department heads and elected officials are extremely responsible and respectful with their budgets, and they continue to stay under budget each year, which is extremely helpful. The assessed value for the county has gone over. It's basically $3 billion.
300 million.
Well, the
Oh,
real
okay.
market would be
Okay,
3
gotcha.
billion, but what's the word I'm looking for? The full cash value is 300 million.
Okay, thanks. I just never heard the B word in county, in my work is at the county. So thank you for that.
So we are, like I said, lowering the tax rate to $2.22. The reason that we are required to have a truth and taxation hearing is because the actual levy, or what we are bringing in terms of tax dollars, is increasing by more than the 2.5%. So we are required to publicize, which we have done in the Courier, that the tax levy, or what we're receiving in taxes, is going up. And that's not because the tax rate has gone up, that's because the assessed value overall has increased. So as a result of that, we will collect more taxes in whole. Lastly, as part of this budget, we have several large projects. I went over this list during the preliminary budget, and I will not do that again. But there it is, and we listed those on the record last time. But just on a high level, these projects range from as low as $5,000 to as high as over $3 million. They include security upgrades, software upgrades, facility improvements and additions, vehicle and equipment replacements, infrastructure repairs and infrastructure additions, property acquisitions, and so on and so forth. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's my presentation for this final budget and for the truth and taxation. I'm sorry, I will add too, we're not only doing this hearing for the
Fire district, for the flood control district.
right, for the general fund, but also for the flood control, and that rate is currently at 0.1098, and our proposed rate is 0.12, so up to 12 cents per thousand evaluation. And officially for our other tax rate, on our property tax rate, from $2.2379 to 2.2179. And I'm available, and so is our CFO, for any questions you might have on the final budget or the truth and taxation hearing.
Thank you very much. First we'll, before we open up to the public, I just had two comments. One was, as far as the challenges and increasing expenses, we actually saw the legislature change the commercial tax rate from 18%, and it's moving toward 15%, so we're actually receiving fewer dollars on commercial property. I don't think that was, did you list that?
No,
Okay,
that's correct.
That's another hit that we're taking.
Yep.
And then my other comment is on the justification for we lowered our taxes. We could have lowered it more. We're in one of the better financial positions, but we're only allowed to raise if we had the recession, if the bottom dropped out and we ended up in a recession again. If you lower your tax rate too much, then you can only bring it back up incrementally, and you're capped, and that would put us in a situation, if we allow it to go too low, that we would not be able to respond quickly enough to adverse financial conditions. So we've made a smaller reduction in the property tax, and then fire and the flood control district. The only, from my perspective, the justification for doing that is that we have a relatively small fund. I think it's around $400,000 that we've accumulated. We anticipate with the changes in our climate that we're seeing right now, that typically that responds to more severe storm events, and so we wanted to have a little more money in our flood control to be able to do some preventative as well as reactive maintenance after these events. So we wanted to increase our balance there and not have to take it out of the general fund. And so I'll go ahead and open this up to the public. Mr. Gott, if you had any questions or would like to address us? Yes, if you don't mind. Mr. Gott lives on 2nd Avenue. I've got his truth and tax, his request form, so go ahead. The time is yours. Typically 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate very much getting to exercise my rights as a taxpayer and a member of the public to address you all and to talk concerning this matter. And I do this periodically. As part of my background, I worked for a career and I chose to retire 7 years ago. So I'm really here just advocating for those of us on a fixed income. It's a little bit different when you don't have annual merit increases, bonuses, other things, especially in this current inflationary environment. So I am advocating for myself and all of those others who are on fixed incomes. I've done this periodically over the years, both with the college district, with the county, with the city, and with others. I like to exercise the right and just speak my mind. often I get myself in a little bit of a jam on the way these numbers work. So thank you very much for the excellent presentation from the manager. Sometimes it's hard to tell what's in the increase is assessed valuation versus intentional decision-making around tax rate and all of that. And so I want to avoid those pitfalls and just say it's excellent to see what's happened with valuation and your all decision-making that's within your capacity. However, when we as the public see in the newspaper the notices of tax increase, it always gets our attention. And when I saw 5.3% on the county property taxes and then 14.29% on the flood control district, it caused me to at least look at the budgets and try to sort through, are we going up, going down, and where are we going? So to make it very short and sweet, I really appreciate your all's attempts to keep a trend towards reducing tax rates. I know we need to run a healthy county, a healthy budget, a healthy fiscal house, and you all have attempted and continue to do a really good job of that, and I appreciate that. So what I'm really addressing is your decision-making capacity to choose to go up, go down, within what constraints you have. And I think I put on the notice to address just neutral. Sometimes when I come into one of these hearings and some area is wanting to actually increase rates and it's a 4% or something, you know, I would definitely speak out in opposition when I didn't feel that's necessary. But I see you all working very hard to be conservative, live within our means. I certainly have to live within my means as a family budget, much more so on a fixed income. There's not many avenues I have to see our income increase to accommodate inflation rates and everything else. And I know you all understand that fully. So I'm going to end by saying, I greatly appreciate your all decision-making capacity, keeping these rates as well as you have, as low. I'm glad you said that, Mr. Chairman, about you had some latitude to even go lower, but you don't want the limitations in case you have to respond to some environment. And I know as we all read the news, et cetera, we see potential for recession, potential for other things. So I know that's always looming and out there, and you have to have the fiscal ability to respond and to manage the county in a sound way. So I appreciate the efforts as a fixed income retiree and representing that group. I just really encourage you all. I know these aren't only a spot moment in time, but this is a trajectory, and I like the trajectories I saw on the graphs. I hope you're able to do that. And on my behalf and others like me, I encourage you all in next year's budget cycle and others, remember us that are trying to do our very best to fiscally. We love living here within this county, and part of that is being able to afford to live here and live well and have a good standard of living. And you all are a big part of helping to support us in that. So thank you for giving me the time to address you all.
Absolutely. Any comments from Mr. Gott?
I just appreciate the comments, Kevin.
Yeah, that's
Makes it
feedback.
worthwhile. Thank you.
It does. You know, it is very, very much appreciated. Our rates have gone down over the last 4 years, 25%. We've reduced our, and of course, some people, because the value of the property has increased, they may not see a 25% reduction because, but at some point in the future, if you sell, then you can recoup that increase in the property value. But our rates, that's our desire is to continue to manage and continue to reduce our rates.
If you had kept us at that near $3 rate, our tax bill would be up by hundreds right now over what it is, which is what we see in the bottom line. Yeah, I will say, and I believe you were present at one of those times I spoke before the community college board. I think they went into the meeting proposing like a 4% tax rate, and I think we emerged the meeting at like 1.5 or 2%. So I've always walked away feeling it's beneficial to state my position as a member of the public, at least to get that voice heard. So
absolutely, yeah. I remember David Morse was part of that group that appealed for moderation. So, yes. But thank you, Mr. Gott.
Thank you all.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other members of the public? Hearing none, Any discussion?
No, I just, I think we need to give a tip of the hat to our whole county, the workers, the department heads, the other elected officials for the fantastic job they do on managing their budgets and cutting where they can. And we've had opportunity this year to actually to kind of feed the whole group of our employees and elected officials as well, to give them what they needed. And it's a very good feeling to be able to be in a position of that with the management we've had on our funds. So I appreciate it very much of our employees and elected and our manager, the job they've done. It's just been fantastic.
Thank you.
I just want to add, being a small business owner, we always work on a budget, and we always want to have the best equipment and the best things we can have, but obviously we have to sacrifice. And just in the short time I've been here, going over the budgets, it's impressive to me how much department heads save and how much everybody does without to make everything work and make the county go around. It's just very impressive. You guys do a good job.
Thank you, Supervisor Mack. Thank you very much. So we've got three items. First, the approval of the property tax rate. Second, a property tax rate for the flood district, and then approval of resolution 2023. So I'll entertain a motion one way or the other on these three business items, and we'll take them separately.
Take them separately. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to, using a roll call, approve the property tax rate for Graham County for FY 2023-2024.
And is there a second?
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and make that that final. I'll call your name. How do you vote, Board Member Mack?
Yay.
How do you vote, Vice Chairman Howard?
Yes.
And Chairman David votes yes. So that motion passes. Okay. Next item is for the flood control district rates.
Make a motion to approve the property tax rate for Graham County Flood Control District for 2023-2024.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
None.
Okay. How do you vote, Board Member Mack?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Howard?
Yes.
Chairman David votes yes. That's approved. And finally, would you go through the resolution for us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Resolution 2023-03.
Graham County Resolution for the Adoption of the Budget, number 2023-03, fiscal year 23-24. Whereas in accordance with the provisions of Title 42, Chapter 17, Articles 1 through 5, Arizona Revised Statutes, the Board of Supervisors did on July 17, 2023, make an estimate of the different amounts required to meet the public expenses for the ensuing year. Also, an estimate of revenues from sources other than direct taxation and the amount to be raised by taxation upon real and personal property of Graham County. And whereas in accordance with said chapter of said title and following due public notice, the board met on August 7th, 2023, at which meeting any taxpayer was privileged to appear and be heard in favor of or against any of the proposed expenditures, expenses, or tax levies. And whereas it appears that publication has been duly made as required by law of said estimates, together with a notice that the board would meet on August 21st, 2023, at the office of the board for the purpose of hearing taxpayers and making tax levies as set forth in said estimates. And whereas it appears that the sums to be raised by taxation as specified therein do not in the aggregate exceed that amount as computed in ARS 42-17051A, and therefore be it resolved that the said estimates of revenues and expenditures shown on the accompanying schedules as now increased, reduced, or changed are hereby adopted as the budget of Graham County for the fiscal year 2023-2024, passed by the Board of Supervisors of Graham County the 7th day of August, 2023.
Thank you. Before we deliberate and vote on this resolution is this just part of, just part of the formality of adopting the budget?
This is the instrument that actually adopts the budget.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion? Any concerns from the public? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this resolution.
Make a motion to approve of the resolution number 2023-03 and adoption of the final budget for 2023-2024.
I second it.
And I'll make the motion unanimous. Now we'll vote on it. And I would just preface the vote by saying this represents tremendous, as soon as the calendar year begins, we start talking about budget. This represents a tremendous amount of work by our CFO, Human Resources, our county manager, department heads. This is a significant amount of work, and so I'm pleased that we're near the end of that. And just like the House of Representatives, every 2 years they run for election, so they're on a perpetual election cycle. We're on a perpetual budget cycle. So, but I'll go call for the vote now. How do you vote, Supervisor Mack?
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Howard?
Yes.
And Chairman David votes yes for approval of Resolution 2023-03 and adoption of our final budget. Okay, we will now, thank you for being here. We'll now exit this special meeting and re-enter our Board of Supervisors meeting. We have 2 items of business. One is a public hearing for a zoning change, and the other is approval of demands and handwritten warrants.
Make a motion to approve the demands and handwritten warrants.
I second it.
I'll make that unanimous so we can pay our bills for the last month. And next we'll enter the public hearing for zone map change REZ number 883-23. Steve McGoy, our planning and zoning director, will give us some information on this and guide us through this.
Good morning again. This is a public hearing for a zone map change request. Tom Palmer is here to answer questions and present. This is a 25+ acre parcel at the corner of, it's not a corner, it's round, but the corner of the intersection of Old Highway 70, San Jose Road, and Buena Vista Road. It'll be on the southeast side of that. They're asking for multifamily residential for the purpose of possibly a subdivision, but more probably some multifamily housing, duplexes, townhouses. I'm not sure what their plan is, but this is the first step in going that direction. So, Tom, you want to come tell them what you're going to do? Sure. Planning and zoning unanimously passed this and gave it a favorable recommendation. I think she answered late. I think she intended to, but you may be right. I think her answer, we had one person on the phone that the lag from here to Maine or wherever it was, Massachusetts, was, I think they had called for a second question when her first answer came in. But I do want you to know that we did have one person that lives in that area was objecting to it, but it didn't seem to sway. And it's the parcel, I believe it's this parcel here. Well, yours is, but the objector was up here. She has a house, a recent build up in here. She's on 20 acres, and she was, and she may want to speak, I don't know. But that was the objection, but
Oh, and what was the nature of the objection? Do you recall?
mostly the water quality, additional wells, and kind of not wanting to see that in her neighborhood, I think was the majority of it. You want to speak? Go ahead.
Okay, I'll have you come
You
to
have,
the
you
stand.
have to come up here and,
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty much done if you want to,
well, I did.
unless you have questions for me.
Yeah, if you'll, there's a form that you can sign after the meeting, request to speak. And so come up and introduce yourself, and we would like to hear from you and your thoughts on this proposal.
I'm also, I think I know Verna, and she's the one that we all live out here.
Okay. State your name and address.
My name is Christine Sherrill, and I live at 7874 East San Jose Road, about a mile and 1/3 off of the Highway 70. And when I saw the thing, she sent me a thing on the on my. She texted me about that note. It was a little tiny thing. I don't go out to the prison because I live closer. And so she texted to me, and I didn't know anything about it. And my concern, I have three concerns, is the traffic. On that road from the turnoff until where I live, the traffic is really, really bad. I know the prison people, drive out there every single day. I've talked to the warden, and I've also talked to the deputies and the sheriffs about the traffic problem. It's really, it's like the Autobahn. It's really, really bad. And if we have that many more cars going down the road, I have concerns. There's people that live out there, the houses are close to the road. I just have concern that there may be, accidents, big trucks running off the road, different things like that. The second thing is water. There's a couple times a day that we don't have any water pressure, hardly at all. How is that going to be impacted out that direction? And the third thing is sometimes you can't get insurance for fire insurance if you live that far from the fire department. I had a hard time finding an insurance company that would cover me because they said it was more than 15 minutes from the fire department. So those were my three concerns that I wanted to bring up. And that was all. I didn't know I had to fill out a form. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I apologize.
No
but,
apologies needed. It's just, it's your first
I just have
public meeting.
concerns. I've lived out there since 2015, and it's just progressively gotten, with the traffic and more people moving. There are a lot of people are moving out there now because there's no houses available, so.
Do you mind if I ask, if the board asks a couple of questions of you? Okay, as far as the water and water pressure, are you on a well or on the city's?
No, I'm city water.
City water,
Yeah.
okay. So that's something that the city, have you asked them about your concerns about water?
Well, I was told that they fill those water tanks out at the prison a couple times a day, and I thought, well, maybe that's why. So I didn't follow up on that.
Okay. And then the traffic, is it the speeding or is it the
Speeding.
volume of traffic?
Well, it's both.
And is it just peak hours, shift change, that it's bad, or is it, can you give me the nature of the?
It's more peak hours, like 6 in the morning and around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. That's when the buses bring the kids home from school too, and there's been a lot of, I don't know if it's construction or what's going on, a lot of big trucks going down that road. There's a lot of, also, what are those farm tractors and stuff? Use that road a lot too.
Yes.
They supply the prison with supplies and things. So it seems like shift change, and then it just depends on, regular whatever people are doing, going up and down that road. Okay. So, yeah, it's just concerning. It's gotten worse since I've lived there in 2015 when I moved out there. So I just was, when I saw this was happening, I thought, oh my goodness, that might be something to think about, so.
Sure. Any other questions, concerns?
So if that's on city water, is this plot gonna be on city water also? Do we know? Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay, did you have any other concerns, Mrs.
No,
Cheryl?
I just had those.
Okay, and can you represent your neighbor who said she had some concerns? Were hers mostly water, or what were the
I
nature?
don't know what Bernice were.
Okay.
She had just sent me this because she knew I lived out there and knew I might be interested. And we didn't really discuss a lot. She's on a well, I think, but we didn't discuss any of the, anything else.
Okay,
So I
well,
don't know.
and she had an opportunity, I guess,
I
during
think
the,
she sent a letter.
Yeah.
She sent a letter or something.
okay, was that in our packets?
If there was a letter, it should have been in your packet. I know she spoke, I don't remember there being one.
Okay, she said she was gonna do a letter, but I don't,
Okay,
Okay,
very good.
okay.
Okay, well, thank you for your input
Thank
on,
you
appreciate
very
that very, very much. Okay, so now we have an opportunity to hear from, is there anyone else that is opposes or has concerns? And we'll take those comments now. Nothing online? Okay, then we'll turn the time over for those who are supporting and would like to answer any questions about and give us more information about that. And that's Mr. Tom Palmer.
Tom Palmer, 3100 Church Street in Thatcher. I'm a member of Marana LLC, which is the owner applicant. I don't remember, 12, 15 years ago, picked up a whole bunch of land up here by the prison, and we haven't done much with it, and primarily because of water. Water's a problem up there. We've had meetings with City of Safford over the years, and they really haven't expressed any interest in serving us water, even though their main Bonita line runs right through it. They kind of need that for downstream uses, and so our options are to either invest a lot of money and get water up the hill and help solve kind of a regional problem, or sell it off in chunks and it'll become a wildcat mess like everything else in the, not everything else in the county. I gotta be careful.
That was a pretty broad brush.
Like
there.
a lot of other places that can happen if you start wildcatting. And so this being adjacent basically to the prison, you've got the prison and then you've got land immediately adjacent that's industrial, and then we've kind of carved out a little piece for a little RV park there, and then naturally as you go away from the prison, the uses will get less and less intense, and you're not going to build your dream house right next, more than likely right next to the prison. So it makes sense to try to put some density where it makes sense. And so we kind of took that 25 acres that's on a paved road there and said that might be a place that we could put enough units to kind of start spending some money trying to solve some problems. So
can you give Tom the laser pointer, Steve?
you want me to show you which piece we're talking about?
Sure.
Want me to point at your eye? Okay, yeah, that's the piece. So that right there is the 25 acres in question. Everything basically up on this entire hilltop all the way back is on wells, and the water quality is bad. It's warm, it's salty, it's gross. The resident that was here in the P&Z meeting expressed that she has to take her clothes to a laundromat because even though she treats her water, it's still nasty and it stains her clothes. I mean, we know that. It's bad water up there. So our options are to punch wells indefinitely up there and keep using nasty water. There's plenty of it. It's just gross. Or to try to get a cooperation with City of Safford. I've had preliminary talks with the current utilities director, and he's not opposed to trying to get some storage up on that hill, which would then solve a lot of the water pressure issues down below. There's no storage to speak of uphill of all of San Jose, and so it does experience a whole lot of pressure drops and issues. They pump up to the prison. We could pump up the hill to tanks that sit up on the hill significantly above San Jose and start to solve that. But if we can't get any kind of return up there and some housing to justify it, we're not going to try to invest a lot of money in the engineering and the infrastructure to make that happen. So this would just be a little chunk. We've got 350 acres up there. This is 25 acres to see what we can do with. And if we don't get it rezoned, that's fine. We'll sell it off and it'll become just little chunks of land over time. But to me, that doesn't really make a lot of sense up there. It would make more sense to try to utilize it in a way that could help solve a lot of problems. And if we can get water up the hill, everyone up on the hill long-term could benefit from that. And that would be our goal, is to start kind of, we have no set plans. If it got rezoned and we couldn't work out something with City of Safford, we'd probably punch a few holes in the ground, build a few duplexes, and that would be the extent of it. If City of Safford's willing to play ball and we can get something done, it could end up being a subdivision of some sort. And that's why the vague nature of the application was, we don't know what we're gonna do, because it largely depends on the water situation up there.
Thank you.
Yep.
And anything else? I had an opportunity for us to ask questions.
Yeah, I think with this project going forward, it's a win situation for everybody in that area, especially if you get your water up there. And another thing I like about it is that you're trying to develop land that won't affect our ag community, which is in dire needs of staying the way it is. We see every day our agricultural community shrinking and shrinking, and a lot of it is to development. And this is out of the ag area. This is in the area that this land could be utilized for a purpose, but water is the key. And if you can get that water, I just see a lot of potential for our community to get, not gonna solve the housing crisis by no means, but it'll be a dent in it. And with that being said, we're aware of the road that goes through there, goes all the way out to the straightaway. And it's not in our plans by any means. It's been discussed somewhat, but that road would be a fairway to that road eventually, hopefully someday, to alleviate some of the traffic problems going down the other way.
I failed to mention that with water, it changes the whole thing up there.
Absolutely.
If there's no water, it's gonna become a long-term wildcat. That's just the truth of the situation.
Right.
If there is water up on that hill, then we could start to look at making the old Highway 70 out to the straightaway a reality, in which case, because San Jose Road is small, it's narrow, and people speed on it. I 100% agree, and that we would rather that not be the long-term way that people get to Morenci. If they can go east, straight out to the straightaway, which is only 3.5 miles from the east edge of our property, they're halfway to Morenci and never have to go down San Jose Road unless they're going to Walmart at 9 o'clock at night, so.
Yeah, and this alleviates a lot of your concerns as well, is if that road it would alleviate some of the pressures of the road that you're worried about, and the water problem would also help. So it'd be kind of a win-win situation for her concerns as well as moving forward with some housing concerns.
Again, the water is the key. If water isn't up there, there's not much you can do. It's, the prison wanted to get off of City of Safford water, and they drilled multiple holes, clear down 600 plus feet, and it's multiple layers of not good water. So you're not gonna solve it unless you can work out something to pump water up the hill, store it, and go from there, so.
And this isn't a project that's gonna happen overnight. You have a lot of work to do on this.
Correct.
And even with the zoning change, doesn't mean it's going forward. There's a lot of work. This is just a
Understood.
tiny step forward, so it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow.
Thanks. Any question?
I think there's definitely a housing shortage, and I think that's a good place to add additional housing, and a good opportunity if you can figure out the water situation myself.
Yeah, I had a couple questions, Tom, before you get too comfortable.
I didn't go far.
I know. One is the, with multiple dwelling units, and I'm not more conversant with the county's fire code, but would you, if, your description is to build a few rental units and potentially subdivide, that doesn't give us a real clear picture, but can you, with the city's water, you couldn't, right now, you don't plan to build anything until you have your water solution fixed, right? So is there any way that you can get water up the hill even at the expense of the people who live down below? Is that mutually exclusive, your construction and your city water?
I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think I do. So one way or another, we have land, something's gonna happen with it. There is a housing shortage, and I hear all the time, I'm the town engineer for the town of Thatcher, and we hear all the time, we wanna build multifamily, we wanna build multifamily, we wanna build rental units. Well, no one's gonna build their dream home this close to the prison, so it makes perfect sense to put some rental units there where someone's not planning on, you know, building their dream home. If the water situation can be solved, we would try to make it a subdivision and something with more units because it would be supported. If not, honestly, we'd probably punch a couple holes in the ground and build a couple of duplexes that we own and rent out long term. So it is vague, but it's not vague because we're trying to be vague. It's vague because we have no idea whether or not the water solution is feasible, and we don't want to spend a whole lot of time and money trying to get it done when right now we couldn't even subdivide with the current zoning.
Yeah. And I guess I could have been clear. My reservation is that without a clear proposal, you know, you don't even know yourself, you know, site plan. But the question is, how do we look at traffic impacts? How do we look at traffic volumes and water and as Mrs. Cheryl had indicated, fire department response, you know, those kinds of things if we don't know the extent. So we're taking a 29-acre parcel?
25.
25-acre parcel and changing the zoning. If we change the zoning to your request, how many units could you build out based on that new zoning? And the reason I ask that is that how do we then, we can't put the genie back in the bottle, excuse me, but how do we then, you know, get the, you know, intersection improvements or minor improvements if we're gonna have, you know, 50 or 100 or you know, I don't know what your density will allow.
I don't know what the county's density allows. All I know is a duplex can't be in a single family, so the multifamily is what we are asking for. Truth is, if it's anything more than a minor land division, which would be 5 lots, it would have to come through all of your county code. The engineer would review it, planning and zoning would review it, they'd go through all the code, the fire would review it. I mean, there would be multiple stages of preliminary plat, final plat, improvement plans where all of those codes would have to be met, traffic studies would more than likely have to be done, et cetera. So it's not, the zoning gives us some assurance that if we go spend a whole bunch of time and money, we're not just spinning our wheels because we're not gonna be able to do it anyway. But it certainly doesn't give us the right to go build anything without following all the applicable ordinances that would come after that.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty good system of checks and balances.
I hope so.
I think so, okay. What, Steve, since you're with the fire department, thank you very much, Tom. Can you address any of Mrs. Cheryl's concerns about her fire? Whether or not she'd be able to get fire insurance based on response times? I know that's kind of a off the wall, out of the box question. Just trying to get some help.
Thanks, Tom, for putting all that other stuff. You said it better than I would have. As far as fire response, she's 9 miles from the fire department, so she probably is at that 12 to 15 minute response time. What individual insurance companies have for their criteria, I don't even pretend to know. Years ago, it was based on miles from a station and miles from a hydrant, which there's hydrants all along San Jose Road, so there is water for firefighting out there. There may not be for drinking, but no, I probably can't really answer as far as insurance. I couldn't answer that.
Okay. And in order for them to subdivide, though, they'd have to have sufficient water pressure. If it goes from zoning change to a subdivision plan, would they have to have water pressure at their hydrants? Or, yes. Could they rely on tankers for fire suppression?
Well,
because that's something that
it would depend on density probably a little bit, but because it's in the district, we're going to bring a tanker every time. So I mean, they get 2 trucks and a tanker and they're, even if you went clear up to the prison entrance to get into his subdivision, he's still within a mile of a hydrant. So a tanker could pretty easily keep up with a pretty good sized fire.
Okay.
I don't really know how else to answer you though, as far, I mean, we would, if it were a actual subdivision, it would require water lines and hydrants and things within the subdivision.
Okay.
Unless, after the other one today, I'll say without an exception.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions? Sorry to belabor the point. Thank you very much. Before deliberating, I will explain my vote, and that growth isn't inevitable, but in Graham County, we're going to see growth. How we handle it is something that we have a little control over. Property rights, we have a long heritage of honoring property rights and purchase, and we've got to honor both existing property rights that Mrs. Cheryl has and her neighbors, as well as accommodating people who've purchased and would like to build. Based on that and the fact that the water does seem to be an obstacle, that this is just a zoning change and not a green light to build anything. It's just a zoning change which would allow, if the conditions are met, for some construction, which has been stated is the county does need it. Then I am leaning strongly toward favoring at least this preliminary proposal, and then reviewing it with the county manager, and then also our planning and zoning as this moves along. And so that's the direction I'm headed. Any other discussion?
Well, I think what this is really about, and it's like you said, you can't put the genie back in the bottle if approved, but I think that what this is doing with this zoning change gives them the opportunity to go forward with their plans. If they can get the water up there, then we would have the opportunity to have a true subdivision, not wildcat subdivision. So I think it's just a step. Again, if it's approved, they can do anything they want, of course, but listening to Tom and knowing that what their true intent is down the line, if they could get this water developed, then we would have a really nice subdivision. It would also enhance, I think, her problems as well. And with the traffic, the road we discussed is a big win on that as well. And you know, it's a whole nother discussion down the road. We talk about fire. The county is growing so big and vast, and people needing fire protection. That's an issue that's going to be coming up to us sooner or later on how we get better fire protection for our citizens in the outlying areas, possibly a substation. I don't know how it all works, but there's things coming down the pipe that we're going to have to address on fire. But I certainly think that this will be a win for the county, as well as helping with our housing needs if the water's the thing. But that gives them the issue, the enables them to move forward to pursue the water.
Yeah.
Without it,
to engage, it'll just be a discussion instead of a proposal.
Right.
If it's not approved.
Right.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this matter, either for approval or disapproval.
Any more discussion, Clay? I'll make a motion to approve the zone map change of residential number 883-23, APN 107-39-038, 25.25 acres. Requested to change the present A general use zone to RM, residential multifamily zone, for the purpose of rentals and possibly subdivide.
I'll second it.
And I'll make that unanimous, and that motion carries, and that the zoning request is granted. Okay, we have one last item, call to the public for the end of the meeting. And seeing and hearing none, then move to adjourn.
Moved. So
Thank
moved.
you. Thank you, Ms. Cheryl. We will continue to look and try to make sure that